I am Andrea Salmond from WA Landcare. We are operated by the WA Land Conservation District Committee, which is a mouthful, so let's use an acronym because we're in the right industry for that. So we're the WA LCDC. Now this team has been around for around 30 years, and it's a team of very dedicated and passionate committee members, volunteers, and staff who are committed to environmental action, which pretty much means we plant trees. About 4.5 million of them so far, which I think is not bad, considering that 99% of that is done on private land by farmers by themselves. It's just wonderful stuff. And we think trees are great because if you've got erosion and salinity and waterlogging, poor soils, habitat, breakages, we've got a tree that can fix that problem. So when Steve Blythe, our nurseryman, local nurseryman, decided on the 7th, announced on the 7th of December 2017, that's not long ago, that he was pulling up stumps, and he called us up and said, "I'm having a fire sale. Everything must go. Do you guys want a nursery?" Our committee sat down, and I was expecting the committee to go, "Oh gosh, well, we can't afford that, so let's look at some other options and let's see." And that's not what they said at all. In fact, they said, "We need to buy this nursery, and we need to buy it now." And you're probably thinking, okay, that's great, but you're not for profit. How did you afford that? Well, obviously the WA Land Conservation District Committee did not afford that. We don't have that kind of money. But what we did have was 4 very generous committee members who provided us with personal loans. So we received a loan, well, several small loans, that added up to a substantial amount of money, with which we were able to purchase the equipment and the first year's lease of the nursery. We started planting within 10 days. We hadn't even got, the ink wasn't even dry, was it, Steve? It was just crazy. Because these are loans, this isn't a donation. This is not done out of the goodness of their heart. We have to pay them back, which means that we have to make sure that we make this business operate at a profit. So now you may wonder, are you actually even allowed to do that? And the answer is yes. Yes, you are. You are a business. You work for an organization that has an ABN, that's an Australian business number. And the restrictions on your business aren't on the fact that you're labeled a not-for-profit. It's because you have things in your constitution or however you're structured that decides how you can and can't operate and what you can and can't do. There are all sorts of things your business can do, but your business isn't a grant writing business. Your business is trying to achieve a mission. Grant writing is one of the fund-making things you do to achieve your mission at the end. You can make money in all kinds of ways. It's what you do with the money that you make that's important. And that's the difference between a for-profit and a not-for-profit organization. So the dirty word, profit, I think is a bit of a misnomer. Just because you have "not for" in the title of our industry title, which is horrible, I think, by the way, doesn't mean you're for loss. You're not out there to lose money. In fact, if you're operating at a loss, you're trading insolvent, and that's illegal. Don't do that. The AFL is a not-for-profit. They're not a charity, but they're a not-for-profit. So is Cricket Australia. I'm using those as examples because nobody ever freaks out about how much money they make.
Yes, we do.
Okay, the vast majority of the community doesn't freak out about that. So I think we need to maybe look at the language we use and the mindset we have on how we frame ourselves and our industry. For example, if the word profit seems really dirty to you, perhaps switching that to surplus. We all need to make a surplus. There has to be a little bit left over at the end. It's really important to fund the next step, to go the next place. And perhaps being not-for-profit isn't right. We've all heard for purpose. What about for change? We are for change. We are here, we have a mission, and we want to change the world. We know that grant funding is dropping, so we have to look at other ways. Our mission hasn't gotten any smaller. The pool has gotten smaller, but the mission has, in some cases, gotten bigger and more urgent. We need to find other ways to make that money. And perhaps it will help to change your mindset first and change the language you use around the way you think about your business before you go, "I'm just not allowed it." Just don't stop cutting yourself off. When it comes to change of mindset, if you've been living under a rock, you may not be one of the 4.5 million people who have watched Dan Pallotta's talk on why we think about nonprofits all wrong. His books are even better, but his talk is a great eye-opener to the ingrained ways of thinking that we not only accept but perpetuate in our industry. We allow these things to continue. We feel guilt over both making and spending money when we're trying to create change, and change costs money. We all know that. So I think we need to just really look at that mindset and shift that a bit. And when it comes to new ways of thinking, sharing, growing, supporting one another in this industry, Vu Le from nonprofitaf.com writes both some very, very funny articles, such as The Truth in Grant Funding, which is a really, really funny article. Read that one first. But anyway, he has really great new ways of talking about creating business models that help you serve your community while also achieving your mission and filling the gap of that 10% rule that we all stick by, that's so challenging to adhere to, because we know that good people cost money, that good skills, good tools cost money. And that's the sticking point that we often have. So acknowledgement to the State NRM office for supporting us in that area. But we're never going to get away from grants, but there has to be something else. So if you think, okay, I'm going to change my mindset, I'm going to take something new on, should I open a nursery? Well, sure, or some other business, go ahead. I mean, really do it. But don't jump in without thinking. Now, off the top of my head, I came up with 4 things I think you need to consider first before you dive in head first. Alignment. So I think if you went ahead and did a little bit of a strategic analysis of what you have, what skills you have, what resources, what passions you have, what materials, what you have on hand at your disposal and what you can build on, use that to say, now, I've got a big truck, I've got a couple of heavy guys who are really strong, we could start a removalist business. And then go, okay, yes, you could, but does that strengthen and forward purpose your mission? Does that help you advance your cause, or is it a distraction from it? So really look at alignment and say, we have people who are really good at managing weeds. Maybe that's a business we should get into, or maybe we can build nest boxes, or maybe there are other things we can do. So assess your skills, find out what you can do, and then test for alignment. Do not buy a business and plant trees within 10 days of owning the business. I was told you shouldn't say that. People will think you're crazy. We were crazy. It was crazy. If at all possible, and with as much forethought as possible, I suggest you prepare for what you're about to get into, in as much as is reasonable. Look at the skills, the people, the resources, the money, the time you have to set aside, the processes you are going to put in place to deal with your new business, so that when a roadblock comes, you can go, hadn't thought of that, instead of every single moment being a roadblock, right? So lay out as much of a smooth foundation as you can and deal with roadblocks as they come. Because you are going to have challenges, and your learning curve is going to go so straight up, you're going to feel like you're flying over backwards. Not that I'm speaking from experience. So, get yourself some backup, okay? Get training, get skilled people, get your committee on board. Honest to goodness, you need a team around you. We were really fortunate that Shaw, who had worked with Steve for many years, was available to work with us. Without his skill and his knowledge, we would not have been as successful this year as we have been, and we're really pleased with that. He knew how to turn the sprinklers on and how to run the seeding machine. There were things he knew that we wouldn't have known without him. So find the right people, find really good people, invest in them and support them so that, in fact, you become their backup. Let them be the lead singers, you're the backup dancer. And finally, passion. I firmly believe you need the 100% buy-in of your committee, your organization, your volunteers. Because how will you achieve your mission if not together? I see it so often where you get a decree set down by the committee, and the EO is left going, well, I'm already pretty overworked and underpaid, and I don't know how I'm going to make this work. You need so many people to make something like this work. In fact, our volunteers have contributed over 614 hours of volunteer labor to the nursery already, and that's only what they've remembered to write down. It's actually a gross underestimation. This is on top of the paid labor of Beau Shaw, who's worked in the nursery, and me in the office, and anybody else that helped us out. So their passion is also what led us to be so successful. They were there day in, day out, committed to making this work. And thanks to them and Shaw, we have had a bumper crop. It's beautiful. We've been having rave reviews. We are 88% sold. And for those out there doing any wetland restoration, all we've pretty much got left is Vicinium nodosa and Juncus kraussei, blatant pitch. We do also have a few melaleucas and saltbush, which will be sold probably by the time I get home. And the beautiful news is, we're so proud of this, we are breaking even in our first year. Now, if we had to pay our volunteers, that would be an entirely different story. So thank goodness for our volunteers. But next year, we're hoping to do even better. What we would like to do is reduce our reliance on volunteers, so that they don't burn out, because, ouch, that's a lot of work they've done. But also because we're getting better at what we're doing. We've got more processes in place, we've streamlined, we've hit the thing. So our efficiencies are going up. And so we're hoping to reduce their reliance just a little, give them a bit of a break, and if we break even or make a little profit next year, we'll be really, really excited about that. So I do encourage you to consider your options. See if you might be ready to take on a forward change business and forward your mission. Thank you.